Hello everyone and welcome to Galloway Glens. We're having an event tonight called Recording Coastal Archaeology, and the opportunity to learn more about the Scape app, which allows us all, if we find anything interesting along the coastline, to record it and identify where it is. So it's really, really exciting new technology that we've got access to here. Galloway Glens, as you probably know, covers the Galloway Glens area, which goes from Kirkcudbright and Castle Douglas up to Carstairs in the north. And we have been doing quite a lot of work along the coast around the Kirkcudbright area as well. Tonight we've got Claire Williamson, who's our archaeologist from the Can You Dig It project. We have Nick Coombe from the Solway Firth Partnership. And we have Sarah Boyd, who's joining us from Scape, and she has all the special knowledge about how to use the app. So I'm going to pass you over to Claire, and she's going to tell you a little bit more.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining us tonight. So it's a bit more kind of slightly informal because we're gone for a kind of meeting. So Sarah's going to start by going through kind of her presentation, some slides, how the app works, and then you can ask, and then she'll prompt us, she'll let us know when it's time to ask questions, and we'll all pile in. And you can either do it through the chat, or if you want to, you know, switch on your camera and ask a question, just pop it in the chat that you're wanting to speak kind of thing, and we'll kind of tell you when to unmute yourself. But if you could keep yourself muted throughout the first part, just while Sarah talks, that would be wonderful. Thank you. So the reason we're kind of here tonight was, one, we came across the Scape app and we thought this was a fantastic idea. We're looking for things that people can just do for themselves without needing to have like a kind of professional archaeology company come in and run a volunteer dig for you to be able to go out and do a bit of archaeology. So this app is actually, because it's free and you can download it to any phone, it's designed for everyone to use, is a great idea from Scape that they've put this together. We will be going out on a wee walking tour around St Mary's Isle on Friday with a group of people, and that'll be Nick from the Solway Firth Partnership and Laura, who's also watching this evening, and she's learning it too. So we'll be doing that on Friday, but tonight was open to everyone. So it's not just for who's coming on Friday, because the point is that everyone can use it. You can go to any bit of coastline that's near you around the whole of Scotland and see what you can record and see what you can find out. But just before we get started, I thought we would ask Sarah a couple of questions about herself and Scape. So we'll start off with yourself, Sarah. What's your background? How did you get into this?
Well, hello everyone. It's lovely to see so many of you here. I'm not actually technically an archaeologist by training, so I was an earth scientist, geologist, and then I came back to university a little bit later to do a PhD with sea level change and looking at coastal change around Scotland. And then that's how I got to know the Scape team, who are archaeologists, and we kind of work quite well together. So I'm learning a lot about archaeology and trying to impart my knowledge of coastal change. So together we make a pretty good team. So I'm the newbie. I'll explain a little bit later as well about who we are, but I'm been with Scape for about a year, so definitely the rookie of the team.
No, that's brilliant, Sarah. And yeah, so if you're going to talk about Scape a bit more in your slideshow, aren't you? So you don't, or do you want to?
A little bit, yeah. I won't bore you with too many details, but yeah, just a little bit about who we are and so how our app came about, really, and just hopefully it should be fairly informal. Feel free to ask questions, especially towards the end, but we'll have a little play with the app.
Yes, I think that's it. And I know that you all got the emails out about downloading the app to your phone in case you want to have a go yourself of creating a kind of fake record, as long as you don't submit it. Or say a lot of...
Even if you submit it, it's fine. There's a moderation step anyway before it goes online. So it's all about feeling free to have a little play with it tonight. And if you've got any issues, please raise them with us and we'll see what we can do. Also, there's a little slide about how to download, because if you haven't managed to or got the chance to yet, I mean, there's plenty of time within the talk to have a look as well, or just follow along with my slides. So.
Perfect. I think we'll just launch into it now, Sarah. Does that sound like a plan?
That sounds perfect. If I can, I'll just try and share my screen here. All right, can you see that okay? Is that all right? Perfect, perfect. Okay. So this is just a little brief rundown of what we're going to go through today. So I'm just going to introduce who Scape are and a bit of background about how the app came to be and what the data in the app actually is and where it's come from and how we can all contribute to it. I'll then look at the sites at risk. We actually have sites at risk map on our website as well as on the app, so you can actually access this information from home on your computer as well as on your phone. Obviously, your phone or your iPad when we're out in the field is perfect for our coastal surveying. But you can look at the information both ways. And then I'm going to go through how to actually use the app, how to download it if you haven't already, how to navigate through the sites at risk and look at the different types of base maps. And then we'll look at updating existing site records, so the ones that are already in the app, and how to add new site records as well. So every time we go out on the survey, we always end up, for every 3 or 4 existing records, we'll probably find the same again of new sites that haven't been surveyed before, or maybe have been missed, or maybe they've just fallen out of the coast edge and there's brand new information for everybody. So we'll talk about how to add a new site, and then a few little tips for making a good site record, one that has a nice amount of information, good range of photographs and that sort of thing. And then after that, we're just going to have a little practice, if that's all right. So if everybody has their phone or their iPad with them, we can have a go at making our own records tonight. So we always like to sort of show our faces on these sorts of presentations so people know who we are. We're quite a small team. SCAPE, the Scottish Coastal Archaeology and Problem of Erosion is our snappy name. We like to go by SCAPE. Was founded by Tom Dawson there in the bottom left about 20 years ago now. Giving away all our ages here. And Joe Hambley has also worked with SCAPE for about the last 14 years, at least, I think now. So they are both archaeologists. They have extensive knowledge of coastal archaeology and especially around Scotland's coastline. So they really have a lot of knowledge in that. And then I am the newbie. I started about a year ago as a sort of earth scientist and GIS analyst person. So I do a lot of work with the data, managing the data, cleaning data from archives, and then also helping run our new surveys, which I'll talk a little bit about as well. So as a team, our main aim is to involve the public as much as possible in our research and help investigate, interpret, and promote archaeology. This isn't something we can just do ourselves. Local knowledge is everything when it comes to local archaeology and heritage, and understanding the importance of sites and helping to monitor those sites if they're vulnerable to coastal change, or maybe vulnerable to climatic changes in the future as well. So getting as many people as possible interested in helping us with this mission would be fantastic. So hopefully I won't bore you too much with these slides, and you'll enjoy this. So a little bit of background to start off with. So from the mid-90s, basically, Historic Scotland, as it was then, Historic Environment Scotland now, commissioned a lot of coastal zone assessments around the coastline of Scotland. There's 28 of them in total. And they basically involve people marching along and recording the coastline in, hopefully you can see in the screen, is highlighted in blue, the coastline that's been covered. And the purpose of those surveys was to understand the coastline, if it's eroding, accreting, the nature of the coastline, but also to record the heritage that was occurring along each of those coasts, and to understand if they were vulnerable, for example, to coastal change. So there's 28 regions. It covered about 35% of the coast of Scotland, which is pretty good going, actually. Over 12,000 sites were recorded during that. And then quite a lot of those sites were recorded as needing some mitigation actions as well. So Quite a lot of the sites were considered to potentially be vulnerable. The issue with this is that in the 90s, this is how the records ended up. They're hard copy reports. If you're interested in looking at a particular region, they're now all scanned and they're on our website. So if you'd like to look at the original, I think they're 1996, the Solway Coast ones, you can have a look at those on our website. But this was sort of the original surveys of the coast. And then from that point, Tom, in about 2010, he decided that he really needed to integrate all of those regional reports and analyze all of that information to try and get a national prioritization of the site. So what is a low priority site, what's moderate priority, and what are our high priority sites? So sites that have got both archaeological significance but are also vulnerable to coastal change. So he amalgamated all that information, and that was sort of the birth of our app. So we have a lot of all of those 12,000 records. And then the SHARP project, Scottish Coastal Heritage at Risk project, involved over 400 volunteers who were trained to use the app, come out on a field survey with us, and to update those records and to enhance them, add more detail to them, and really get to know those priority sites. So during that project, over 1,000 of those sites at risk were visited again and monitored by local volunteers. If you're interested in finding out more about the results of that, we have another report which is also on our website. It just talks through all those areas and the sites at risk in those places. And so this is where I kind of joined the team. 35% of the coastline is pretty good going, as I said, but there's still 65% of our coastline that hasn't had a methodical survey as such for it. And so we've got new coastal zone assessment surveys being rolled out now, basically now for the next couple of years. These fieldwork surveys we're doing slightly different than have been done before. So we're trying to target vulnerable coastline instead of walking the entire bit of coast. We really want to target the areas we think are going to be most impacted by coastal change. And I won't go too much into that because I know we're here to talk about the app, but we've used a couple of models. One to do with coastal susceptibility to erosion, which was a model undertaken by some Dr. James Fitton in his PhD, and also a model of projected erosion rates for 2030. And that's from Dynamic Coast, which you may have heard of, another project that looks at coastal erosion. So we've used both those models to target areas specifically that we think are vulnerable, and we are starting to do our surveys there. And again, people who are local to the areas, we'd love to come along with us on our surveys. And all of the data that we collect will flow back into the National Archives. So I should say we're starting and have started with the Highland, Murray and Aberdeenshire coastline, Highland east of Inverness, so not all of Highland, and Murray and Aberdeenshire. So this is sort of the rough area where the green dots currently are. The green dots mean that these are existing records that we know about from Canmore and local historical environment records. And hopefully we're going to try and visit as many of these as possible over the next few months. So this is, if you want to know where one of us is from the SCAPE team, we're probably marching along this coastline somewhere. So that's what we're up to. And I just wanted, just as a tangent to that, just to show a few of the sites that we've come across so far with our new coastal zone assessment surveys, just to get a flavour of the different types of sites that we're interested in. I mean, it's pretty much endless what you could find along the coast of interest, but east of Inverness, for example, there's a lot of fishing heritage. So we've got some nice drone images of some fish traps, some other industries. So this is an old, I think it's a 16th century tide mill just at Newton of Petty, and also other fishing. So there's shipwrecks. So we're interested in bits of shipwrecks and crafts that we find. This is at Culbin. This we think is a bit of local information suggests it's a shipwreck of a Zulu fishing vessel. And then further local information from people that we've met along our surveys led us to this lovely boat graveyard at Munlochy Bay. So we it's basically, I think it's up to 12, we've counted 12 Zulu wrecks in the intertidal zone at Munlochy. And this has led into further survey with the local archaeological groups. So plenty to see there. And then also quite a lot of military and World War sort of heritage as well along this coastline. We've got anti-glider posts, pillboxes and anti-tank blocks, and also some, there's a rifle range just at Findhorn Bay. So as we're moving around the coastline, we're coming across all sorts of different interesting heritage. Before I joined Scape, maybe you would think, oh, I don't know what would, you know, would this site be considered of interest? But if it's an interesting site to you, and if you're interested in all sorts of periods of time, so anything like this is of interest to us and with our app. So the sites at risk is on our app, and we'll talk about that, but also on our website as well. So if you want to look at any of the sites that we've recorded so far, you can get to that through our website. So it's just scapetrust.org, and then the specific page is sites at risk. This is the page, incidentally, that if you want to register with us, you can register at the top there with the register button. And then below that, you can click on either Android or iOS. If you're using your phone or iPad, it'll take you directly to where you can install the app. So in case you couldn't find that before, that's where all of the buttons are to get registered with us and to get the app. So this is just a screenshot of that page. With the app, you can look at it in map view. Satellite view is very helpful, especially if you're wanting to plan a nice walk to pick out a few of these sites to look at. And also we've got some 1900s historical mapping as well. This is just looking more closely at the Solway Coast. You can see all of the sites that have been recorded in the coastal surveys. And I should say at this point, the color coding system is basically low, medium, and high priority sites. So the sites in red are the ones that are considered that have a high local or a high archaeological interest, but also are quite vulnerable to coastal processes. And just as an example, one of these little red dots, you might recognize the area is just of a mulberry beetle. This is a cairnhead mulberry beetle. And if you click on any of these records, you'll get a new portal open up, and you'll see the description of them, what the site is and the period if we know it, and a few photographs, hopefully. Some of them might not have photographs, but if they don't, then you can help us go along and update some of the records and add some photographs to them. So this is just an example of what you can see with our online map. So the actual app itself, what I thought I would do was go through a few screen grabs off the app and just walk through how to use it. With these online workshops, I thought it might be easier that way, that we could go through it together like that, and then have a go at playing with it afterwards. So again, if you've downloaded it, this should be your landing page, and you should be able to see this once you've logged in and everything. You've got your sites at risk map, and then the ability to add new sites. I should say we also have guidance on our website if you want any further information or want to look back at some of what I'm saying. We've got some guidance pages as well to help with it. So with the sites at risk map, again, this is just showing you what this looks like on the app compared to on the website. So with the first little square box on the top banner there, you've got your normal base map. So that's what this one looks like, and you can zoom in and out just with your fingers. If you've got your location, if you allow locations on your phone, you can click the little crosshair button and that will zoom you right into where you are. So that's quite handy when you're out in the field doing your survey, that you can see exactly which sites are in your vicinity. The next little button across, if you click on that, that's your satellite view. So this will get you your satellite imagery for wherever you are. The thing about this is we highly recommend downloading the area that you're going to be working in before you go out in the field, because we don't want your phone to be trying to load satellite imagery whilst you're out and about. And actually, if you've already pre-downloaded it, then you don't need any data. You can just you have it all in your phone there. So to do that, you just click, you zoom into where you want to be, or your area that you're going to cover, and you click the little download button, and it'll give you a little message then you're about to download X amount of data. And then if you click OK, then that is then saved in the app. Obviously, if you're going out a lot with this with us, you don't really want to keep downloading hundreds of these, because it'll just clog up your phone. So once you're finished using the satellite imagery that you need, on your home screen, you can click on the little more info button at the top and manage download maps, which is just the third little option down there. And what you can see in the manage download maps, what map you have, what images you've got downloaded, and you can then delete them once you're finished with them. So that's how you get in and out of your satellite imagery. And then finally, we also have historical map layers. So I think this is the 1/2 inch, 1900s 1/2 inch at this zoomed out level on the left. And then if you zoom in further, it's I think it's a 6 inch. So yeah, the 6 inch 1888 to 1913. So you're talking about 1900s historical maps. And these are incredibly useful in the field for a couple of reasons, at least. Sometimes you might stumble across something that isn't already a site or hasn't already been recorded, and you might find, for example, like foundations of a building or something like that. And actually, the historic maps can quite often be incredibly useful for that, because you can see if there was at one point buildings there at that time, and it can help you sort of understand what you might be seeing. Occasionally you might stumble across something and look and go, oh, this used to be a well, or it's quite useful for that. The other thing it's very useful for is if you want to add a new site record. Quite often it's difficult to know what to name it, so the place names on these older historical maps are very useful to help you get an accurate place name if you're going to add a new site record. So that's another use for these. I personally just love old historical maps, so I will zoom around the coastline and just look at it for far too long, trying to see what exciting things I can find along the coast. So you can just use it for that as well. Okay, so I thought we'd just zoom into a couple of important uses of the app, and what you'll probably most likely be using the app for is either updating a site record that exists already or creating a new one. And both are very simple to do, just a few little steps. So I'm just going to go through how to update a site record. So I've just chosen one on the Mary's Isle here just as an example. So if you go into your app, go into the sites at risk map and see where all the existing sites already are that we've got recorded. You can zoom in on the one that you're interested in. So you might be walking along this coast and you're interested in this site, and you just click on it basically. That will open up a new screen. At the minute, there isn't too much information here for this one, but to add an update, you just click add an update at the bottom blue button. And then that will bring you into the actual site record. So anything with when you're updating it, anything with sort of grayed out is already information that's in the record. You don't have to worry about changing any of that. If you think that the site record isn't in an accurate enough location, which could happen if the site's been recorded in the early 90s, maybe the actual location of that site isn't particularly accurate, and your mobile phone now might give you a much more accurate location, you can just click the Get Location button, And this will calculate your location based on your phone's GPS, and it will update the location there for you. Then what we love about site records is, please, if you have the ability to, please take some lovely, nice pictures for us, because pictures, as they say, tell 1,000 words and are perfect for helping us to monitor sites, especially if we're comparing to pictures that were taken 10 years ago or so. So if they click the take picture button, that takes you straight into your phone's camera, and you can just take the pictures of your site. I'll talk a little bit more about the different photographs that might be useful in a bit. And you can also at this point select other images from files. So you can select images that you've already taken and not right at that time, or you can add sketches, site plans, anything else that you've drawn, although you might do that at a later date when you've come back from the field, but you've got the option to do both things there. And then we'd like you to put a little site description update in, and that it doesn't have to be super complicated at all. You can say as described previously. If you want to add to the description, feel free to add a little bit about the condition and things like that, and if there's any other additional information that needs to be added that isn't already there. You can also sometimes you might actually need to update a site to say, actually, we can't see anything here. That happens occasionally. So there might have been a site recorded for something, and there might have been so much erosion, or maybe just the location isn't quite right and you can't find the site. It's also quite useful for us to update sites like that to say, actually, this site is no longer here, and take a picture and say, this is what we see at this location. That can happen too. So any updates like that are really helpful to us. And then after that, we have a few little questions that are completely optional. You don't have to fill these out to submit a record at all, but they're quite useful to help us understand, for example, if you're looking at sites in the intertidal zone, say, what state of the tide was it? Was it low tide? Was it high tide? What the proximity to the shore, how accessible the site is, that sort of thing. So just a few extra little questions. And then once you're happy with that, then you can click save. And that will just take you out of the site record, and that's you done for now with that. And if you're creating a brand new site record, it's quite similar in how you go about doing that. But instead of clicking the site records on the Sites at Risk map, you just go straight in on the homepage to add a new site. So you click the Add a New Site button, and then you get this very, very similar form to fill out. But this time you do need to put in a site name and a site type and a description. Those are sort of your basic things you need. I wouldn't worry too much if you don't know the period of the site, and quite often it's very difficult to know that, especially if you're just seeing it for the first time in the field and there's no research done on it. Then feel free to leave that blank, that's fine. Site type, just a basic 1 or 2 word description, so it could be anything from posts to stone alignment to castle, anything in the range of what you think the site is. Again, don't worry too much about that, because part of my job with moderating sites is I see all this, and Canmore, for example, have a thesaurus, I say that word, thesauri of words that they like as keywords, so I can always check and make sure it aligns properly with what people would like for the sites to say. And then the site name, that's where I think the historical maps can be quite useful as well. If you're not sure what to call it, it can just be St Mary's Isle, it can be or it could be very specific, little bit of coastline if there's a local name for it, for example. All of that information is super useful for us. So with a new site record, we won't have any location information at this point at all. So you need to click the Get Location button. So again, your phone will do its magic job of getting a nice GPS location for us. So that gets your site located. And again, some nice pictures of the site. And we've got our optional questions as well. Sorry, just if they're relevant and you can fill those in, that's also very helpful to us. And then with recommendations and comments at the end, again, you can leave these fields blank. There's no pressure to recommend anything. Usually it's just to come back and monitor the site, see how if it looks like it's eroding, for example, it might be good to come back and monitor these sites. Or it could be you could recommend a survey or something more involved if you think it merits that. So you can feel free to put recommendations in for us. And the comments is mainly for me and my team when we're monitoring, me and Joe, if you have extra comments you want to say. So you're not quite sure about it, the period, but you think it might be this, you can put that in. Or if you're not, there's some extra little bits in the description, but you can put that in there. Anything that you think is relevant, you think might be useful, you can put in the comments. But again, you can leave it blank. It's just additional information. I don't want to overload you with things to do. As long as we have a site name, a site type, and location, and some good photographs and a nice description, that's the core of the record basically, and things can be added at a later point anyway. So the third little button on the home screen is your site forms. So if you're out and about and you've updated a couple of sites, you'll find them in there. If you're like me and you're working on these coastal surveys where you're checking lots of records every day, you might have about 30 of these site forms in this at the end of your day. And this is where they're all stored. So when you save an update, or if you save a new site, this is where your forms would be. And when you're back at home with your Wi-Fi and a bit more time, you can look through them. You can edit your descriptions. You might have written it in shorthand for speed, and you can go in and write a little bit more. And you can also attach your other files. So if you've got any extra information you want to add, or any extra photographs to add, you can do it at this point. And then once you're happy with them, then that's when you click the submit button. So I wouldn't stress about it. You actually can't really. Basically, once you've got all your information in your forms, you can go through them, and once you're happy with them, click submit, and then they'll upload to our website, and then I can moderate them from that point and get them up on the site. So all of your contributions will end up on the website. So to help everybody find out a little bit more about their coastline. So we're hoping that as many people as possible get excited about using it. Maybe if you're planning a walk somewhere, or you're going on a holiday to a different part of Scotland, and it's a nice resource to look at what archaeology is along those coastlines, but then you can also add to it as well, and help us update sites that maybe haven't been updated for a while, and really just get stuck in with using the app. We'd absolutely love that. So I just have a few little slides left about creating a good site record, or just tips basically. Sometimes when I first got the app, I was like, oh, I don't know what to write really, what makes a good record, and basically don't overstress it or worry too much about it. Just good site name, like I said, a nice short, snappy site type, a period if you can estimate it or know it, but again, not to sweat it. And then the descriptions, and just look at the site plainly and just really say what you see. Some useful questions to think about when you're at a new site for the first time is, where is it located on your coastline? Is it an intertidal site? Is it on the coast edge? Is it a little bit in from the coast edge? Just roughly where it is, what the shape and the dimensions of the site is. So is it a building, is it foundations, that sort of thing? Is it a long lateral sort of buried soil or something like that? Just an idea of the shape and dimensions, and an estimate of the size of it if you don't have anything to measure it, for example. What material it's made out of, if there's any archaeological layers, for example. Are you finding burnt material? Suggest occupation, that sort of thing. Or are you finding bone or pottery? Is it that sort of a site, or worked stone? And then also what's really useful for us is to know what the condition of the site is. So is it actively eroding? Is it accreting? Has someone said it's eroding in the past, and actually, yeah, there's another chunk missing? Or maybe actually it's just a very dynamic coastline and it was eroding, but now it's all lovely stabilized again. So any information like that is super useful for the site description. And then with photographs, we usually say about 4 is really good for a site record. Obviously, that can vary. It depends on the site. Some sites might be so intricate you have lots of photographs, but 4 is a nice starting point. So, for example, if you have a site on the coastline, you'd maybe take a picture looking one direction and a picture looking at the site from the other direction to get the context of the site and sort of us to understand where it is, literally on the coast. Maybe a picture, if you can get the whole site in one photograph, is also very useful to just get the whole idea of what we're dealing with. And then close-up views of interesting or informative elements. So I've got a couple of examples, but you can use your hand as a scale, for example, and if it's a shell horizon, or maybe have a dog or a person in the picture if you're taking a picture of some pointations, that sort of thing. And here, yeah, talking about scale, I knew I was going to preempt myself. So with the scale, obviously we travel around with ranging rods quite a bit, which are useful, but if you don't have that, people are always very useful. Scales, dogs, your foot, and anything that can help us understand the scale of what we're looking at is perfect. And like I said before, you can select from files and add any sketches or things that you've done in the field. You can add them in your back home if you so desire. Yeah, I've covered this already. Comments and recommendations, not a big deal if you don't have any or you don't want to fill these in. But if you're really interested in the site and you're thinking, oh my goodness, this needs some real someone to really look at it or that sort of thing, just throw that in the comments and we'll take that all on board. And then finally in this part, I just thought I'd put in a couple of example records that I think are quite nicely done. A little bit of the description. So this is in Fife. This is close to our stomping ground, the escape team at St Andrews. And this is just a lighthouse construction site. It's carved grooves in the sandstone. The description has a little bit of the dimensions of it, cut into natural rock. And it talks about how it's eroding because of shingle scouring and that sort of thing. And then these are the pictures that are along with that record. So here we've got a person for scale. We've got a photograph looking southeast, one looking northeast, and then we've got some more zoomed in pictures of the site. And finally, this is a shell midden. I'll not try and say the name because I'm not very good. I apologize. It's a bit of a difficult one if you're not used to it. But this is again a good description. It talks about the different types of shells in the shell midden, roughly the size and dimensions of it. And this is up in the Highlands. And another 4 photographs here. With a person for scale and ranging rods for scale, views of the context of where we are, and some detailed photographs of the shell layers. So that's just a couple of little examples for a nice record. Not too crazy. You don't have to write pages and pages unless you want to about the description of the site. A few photographs is absolutely fine. Brilliant. It would be brilliant if we can get some more sites updated in your local areas. So that is the end of my slides. And I thought I'll give you a little break from me talking now, but if people have their phones and they have any questions as well, feel free to ask now, and we can maybe go through taking a little example record if you're up for that.
Oh, perfect. Thank you so much, Sarah. That was really comprehensive. I was making some notes, and I'll have
Sorry about the internet again. It's my fear that it's going to drop out because it's fine 95% of the time, and then sometimes it just disappears. So,
No, it was really only for a few seconds. It was more that awkwardness. I think we were all like Has she frozen? Is she gonna?
Oh
Is she
no,
coming?
no.
She's not coming back. But then you did, so it was all good. It was all good. But no, we've had a couple of questions in so far. Mainly kind of, I think, troubleshooting with the apps.
Ah, okay. Oh yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
So Wendy said something about going again from the home screen. So Wendy doesn't seem to have what you're showing. So I'm wondering, Wendy, are you able to unmute yourself or give a bit more information? Is it just when you open the app, it's not showing you that same home screen? When you open up the app, is it a different screen that you're getting?
If I was out walking and I saw something that I thought was interest, but I didn't know, I couldn't, because when I see the blobs on the screen, you know, it's just blobs. And I don't know whether they've already been recorded. So if I was then to put in, when you put in the location, if somebody has already documented that, will it show if I put in, you know, if I went to do something and then put in site location after I'd done the my review of it, would it show if it had already been recorded under a different name, for instance?
So if you're out in the field and you see the dots on the sites at risk, that's everything that is in at the minute. So it could be that maybe the location's wrong and someone has recorded it before, but if you record it as a new site, I will always cross-check it anyway. And if it's already there, just like in a slightly wrong location, I can correct it and add the information to it. So it would always be still very useful. It shouldn't be, if you don't see a blob or a circle at where you are at that point in time, it's likely that it just hasn't been recorded yet. And I would go ahead and record it anyway, and do a record. And yeah, that'd be perfect. Even if you went home and then looked at the sites at risk map on your computer, I don't know if that would be easier for you as well, and you can see basically everything that's been recorded there. But yeah, there will be sites that haven't been recorded. There'll be lots of sites that probably haven't, because I guess it depends whose eyes are looking at it as well. That's the thing, you know. Everyone sort of has a view of can sort of pick out something slightly different. So I would say go for it and record it anyway, and we'll see it at our end. I see everything that comes through, and I'll be able to if it is already a record, I'll link it. But if it's not, it'll be a new record.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Right, while Elaine's typing in her question, I'll ask John's question. So John wanted to say, he was saying that when he clicked on the historic maps option, that he's only getting an outline of the whole Great Britain, or the whole GB.
Okay, I meant to say this. This is something that is right now being worked on. So this is when our IT specialist comes in. So there's something happened with iOS specifically. If it's an Apple phone, there was an update that was going through that meant that the historic map tiles weren't showing. But hopefully, with this update, that will get rectified. So all I can say is sort of hopefully in the next, I'm hoping in a week or so. It's an ongoing thing, and I meant to mention that because I have an iPhone as well, and it's quite upsetting because I love my historical maps, but they have disappeared on iPhones. So when you click on that button, the tiles aren't loading at the minute, but it is something that we know about and we're working on. So that hopefully will reappear. If anything like that though is really useful to bring up to us, because we always like to say we like it if people try and almost break the app, you know, push it to its limits, because we're quite proud of it. It's something that's been developed, and we keep adding bits to it and trying to make it intuitive. But things can go wrong with apps, and if we find out about it, then we can fix it hopefully as quickly as possible. So feel free to let me know if there's anything that's slightly awry with it, and we'll do our best to keep it slick and working. But if it's an Apple phone, I don't know if it is, but if it is, it's probably that.
John said that it is Apple, and that he said thanks, much obliged, because he's now glad it's not just him. So that's
no, it's not just you, I promise. No, we have every so often we have little meetings of things that we want to. Oh, can you add this to that, please? Or can you do this? I'm not an IT coding specialist, so I bow down to our coder who can fix these things for us.
No, no, I know. It's a lot of help being able to pass that on. It's so comfy. I actually wanted, I know Elaine's still typing away, so in the meantime, no pressure. I was actually going to bring Nick in, because actually we've not introduced Nick yet, because I just wanted to say, Nick, how do you find, so this is Nick Coombe from the Solway Firth Partnership, do you think that the app's going to be really helpful for what you do in the Solway Firth Partnership? Is this something that might be quite a useful tool for introducing people to?
Yes, definitely. So we've used it already working with Scape on various sites along the Solway. So we've done everything from Second World War sites to ancient fish traps, and yes, interesting finds in Redkirk, as well as in Kakubri Bay here. And yeah, the more that we can get people to put information in, the better. So although it was surveyed many years ago, it was just a very quick walkover survey, and often places were missed. So, for example, when we were looking at the beetle at Cairn Head near Garliston, it had been reported that it was no longer there. But what we discovered was that the person must have gone at high tide. So if they'd gone at low tide, it would have been very obvious that it was still there. And so things like that. And also to remember that there isn't a lot of erosion in Dumfries and Galloway, but there are other things that can affect sites. So, for example, people walking along the coast and eroding sites, or cattle or beasts on the coast eroding sites, or other things, building work and things taking place. So to know about these things is really useful, because it's not always just climate change and the sea that makes a difference. There's other threats to our archaeology.
No, that's perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. And yeah, I should have mentioned that as well with our little optional questions about what height the tide was when you were walking the coast, because it does make a big difference with the intertidal archaeological sites. For example, actually as well with the Munlochy Bay boat graveyard, that was originally recorded as one boat, a little bit off one boat, you know, with this rapid walkover, because it was a high tide. And quite often, you know, say, oh, well, why do you do it at a high tide? But if you're walking 10 kilometers a day, then parts of your walk are going to be at a high tide, and depends when you had to do it. And so it was really great to be able to update that and go, no, there's actually 12 vessels here. You know, it was a really nice discovery, because, you know, you weren't expecting it based on the record that was there before. So it can be really, there can be some really good surprises with it. So yeah, they're worth checking out wherever you're walking.
Oh, thank you. We've had a question in from M. White. Is the app only available for iPads and mobiles, or is it available for a PC? So could you come and into a PC kind of thing?
That's a good question, because I know you can download apps on computers. I can't say I do that very often, but you can update sites. Well, you can't. Can you update? Yes, you can. You can update sites on our Sites at Risk page. So that first screenshot I was showing you of the Cairnhead beetle, there's a little button that says you can update the site there. So you can do that from your computer. A good question about apps on PCs, because that's something I was just thinking about today, because I've never really downloaded apps onto my computer, but I think it probably works. It's sort of optimized for your phone and everything, so I'm not sure how it would look on the computer, to be honest. Especially, I mean, it's the app itself is optimized for being able to go out with it and to check the location with your GPS and that sort of thing. So in that sense, it's best to have it on your phone or iPad, because then you can get a nice accurate location. I guess when you're updating on the computer, you sort of would have to zoom in and place a dot where you think you were. So I'd say it's probably best on your phone or iPad.
Thank you. Okay, so we've got, Elaine had two questions. So I'll give you the first one. We'll do them one at a time, and that'll be Nikki.
Yeah, that's fine, yes.
So first one, if a site is eroding, for example, Stairhaven Pier, is it helpful to add historic photos?
Yes. Information like that, if you have local information or information from different time periods, that is very helpful for us. And like we say, with these rapid walkovers, you only get a snapshot of one point in time. And if we're interested in if sites are eroding and visibly changing over time, it would be great to be able to attach those. So, I mean, if you have permissions to share them, for example, because obviously, well, we wouldn't publish anything that we didn't have permissions for, but you can attach those as files to your to the record, or just email us, to be honest, if you have any additional information, if you're interested about a site. So there's always that option as well. But
I suppose to add in, Aileen's got another question, but I was thinking that as well. Say if you were to come across a site, it's got photographs and it's got a decent description that's much the same. Is it worth still maybe taking a photograph? Because
yes,
and just every time, if everyone took photographs every few years. Yeah, oh yeah. If
no, it is 100%. We would really recommend that. We do that with our coastal surveys now, because the way we've done it this time, like I was saying, we actually brought in Canmore data points and information that we already know about before we've done our survey. So we'll click on those, and we quite often you can just say as described, you know, in the updated description, it's as described, it hasn't changed. Here's a photograph as of 2022. Or if it has changed a little bit, you know, you say, oh, it's changed a little bit from here's a photograph from as of 2022. That the photographs are just really useful to us, because you know it's showing you exactly what it looks like at that point in time. And whenever you're covering the whole coastline of Scotland, it's difficult to get that temporal change. You know, a site might not have been looked at since it was recorded in the early 90s. So it would be great to get more photographs for them. So definitely.
I think Elaine now has the power of speech. Can we hear you now, Elaine? I think.
Hi. Sorry, as you've already guessed, I'm not brilliant on technology.
No.
On saying that, though, when I opened the app before tonight's session, I was amazed that I could easily use it.
Oh, fantastic! That's good.
So
that's great to know.
I was really impressed that I was able to whicher about it and have a look at things. And the two questions. One is continuing there. I think what you were saying about photos. One of the piers close to where I was brought up at Stairhaven, the pier is now in a pretty precarious state. We've managed locally to gather a wheen of historical photos showing the pier. Would that be interest to show photos from quite a number of years ago to show what the pier used to look like?
Yeah, that would be useful. It'd be really useful for us to sort of see the change through time, especially if it's been quite a dramatic change. We'd be happy to get the sort of information as well. We obviously wouldn't expect you to be attaching that in the field, you know, with the app, but if you're back at your computer, you can attach those files, or like I said, if you have any extra information about a site, you can send it to us as well. Email us.
Aye. The other one was when I was looking at the information on the app, there's records again round about Glenluce area. Records have been downloaded from Canmore. There was a minister more than 100 years ago who did a load of gathering of archaeological information, and on the map, what he had gathered bronze arrowheads and bits of pottery on the shore, and the map showing it as Sand Head, but in effect it's, if I mind right, it's actually Sand Hills, and it says Sand Hills on the Canmore site, but it's by putting it to Sand Head, that's like another 4 or 5 miles round the corner.
Okay.
Whereas Sand Hills is what's now Glenluce Golf Course. So if there's bits of information like that where local folks would dispute where it is on the map, would that come back to yourself, Sarah, and say, we're wondering, is this no the accurate place for the map?
In that situation, I'd say what I would do would be go into the site record, go into the site, go update I want to update the site, and then, well, if you might not be in the field when you're doing this. I appreciate you might not be standing exactly where you think it is. So in the comments, what I would do would say, believe that this location's inaccurate. It's Salt Head, not Salt Hill, or Sand Head, sorry. And just you can save it and submit that, and then we'd get that information, and then we can go in and move the dot basically, or to where you think it should be. So information like that's fantastic as well, because there will be the odd you know, things will get mixed up, and we've had it where someone's, you know, 20 years ago submitted 2 records and they've got mixed over, you know, little things about place names. So we can fix it, and that's very helpful, because yeah, it means that the next person who comes to look at that will know that actually this wasn't here. You know, we'll have put the dot in the right place. So that is very useful.
But huge thank you for the app. I've a notion that there'll be a wheen of folks that I ken locally who'll be really interested in having a look at what's already there and bits that are missing, and keen to edit the local area. But also, what a wonderful resource for if you're going a walk or going on holiday. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I'm really pleased about that, because I know that apps, I mean, I'm usually not very good with that. I don't have very many apps on my phone, and I know a lot of people are like that. And so when you say, oh, I've got this app and you can check it out and do this, quite often people are like, oh, I don't know about that. But actually, when you realize it's really intuitive to use, and once you get going with it can be quite addictive. You can look up every coastline that you're on and go, oh, I can update that, take a picture, you know. So they don't all have to be you know, super researched, you know, fancy updates. You know, like I say, a photograph, as described. Quite often we have harbours and things, so you know, you could say it's as described here in the description, but here's a photograph as of 2022, and that's really useful. So
to be honest, even if it's something that you don't know what it is, like just marking it when you're there as being some sort of concrete structure or brick structure or some wooden post means that people will know it's there, and they'll go along and they'll have a look in the future. Somebody might recognize what it is at that.
Yeah, and they can add to it. Exactly, yeah. And you know, that's a perfect example for me, because I'm learning a lot. But some archaeological sites I'm not sure about the period, or you know, it'll be brand new to me, a new type of site that I've not come across before. But it's sort of this idea of describe it really plainly. You know, as a geologist from training, it's the same thing really. You sort of say, okay, what is this? Okay, well, what size is it? What's it made of? What does it look like? And if you think this looks like something, or it was once something of you know, of interest, then record it. You know, what's worse that can happen? We'll have a look at it. We've got 2 very expert archaeologists and me, who's slightly less expert archaeologist, but we can we'll moderate everything anyway, so it'll all be checked and before it goes up.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you very much, Elaine, for finally asking questions, and thanks for the feedback. Rupert had a question. Is there a priority list of type of information needed for locations? So many will have evidence of multi-era activity, but may have only one obvious feature listed.
Oh, okay. So do you, I'm assuming you mean in the sort of the site type, what you would call it potentially?
Yes.
I mean, if you know
happening in the one area from different eras, yes.
Yeah, that's true. I guess in these sorts of situations, again, it's to say what you see, and with the site type, you can put more than one thing, by the way. So when I say put one word, I mean, you could say, you know, stone structure, comma, you know, what else to say, but you know, if you think there's multiple things going on, you can write that, and then the comments write that as well, and the description definitely say what you see, and the photograph should show what we're seeing right now. But if you have more information about a site, again, you can feel free to put that in the comment, and we'll see that. I hope I'm answering that correctly. I guess a lot of sites will have a lot of multi-use, and in terms of priority, I don't think really. I mean, if you know of multi-use, then just write that, and that'll be really helpful.
Yeah, that sounds, because it sounds a bit like for the, you can write as much as you kind of want in the description and in the comments section, and then Sarah will, when it comes to you, you'll make sense of it, and you can amend the site type to fit with what's described and things like that. Is that right?
I should say a little bit about what we do when we moderate sites. Sometimes it's quite simple, this is what it is and here's the photographs and that's fine. And a lot of the time we do additional research into the different sites. We'll look up the statistical accounts, or we'll find if there's other local information. The shipwreck photograph of a bit of a Zulu that I showed earlier briefly, a local had actually looked into the history of that and had newspaper articles and had sort of thought they knew exactly what shipwreck it was and what boat it was. So we're always interested in adding new records like that. So if it's a very complex site with lots going on, we can have a good look at that and make sure it's got a description that does it justice. So we can add records as well, and help with that process. We don't expect everybody to know everything about every site or to know its entire history, but say what you see and say what you know, and that'll be just incredibly helpful.
Is there, maybe it says it in the app, is there kind of like a range inland you can go? Is there like so many, like 100 meters?
That's a good point. With our coastal surveys, we tend to go about I say about like 50 to 100 meters. Like the range can be quite big. It doesn't have to be right at the coast edge. As long as it's not, it is coast. If you consider it coastal, I would say. I'll see. I'll just double check what we actually have in our. Yeah, greater than 50 meters. So I say like sort of 50-meter range, but you can go if it's not an exact science in that regard. If it's the thing about coastal surveys and what I've discovered doing them is some coastlines are very typical in what you sort of imagine a coastline to be, and in other cases, like Colbin, for example, you have these big spits of sand and salt marshes, and the coast it's wider than 50 meters, so whatever you sort of consider as coastal, where you are and what you're walking on, it'll still be relevant, as long as it's not, I guess, in the middle of the Cairngorms or something. If you can see the sea, I'd say it's probably if you're close by, I think that's fine.
That's grand. Well, I think it's good to know that we can put stuff in and add sites, and that you are at that end moderating it, so we don't need to worry too much if we put stuff.
Yeah, no worries at all.
You're there to correct what comes in, so we don't need to worry too much kind of thing about what we're doing in that sense. But no, I think it's really good. I think as well it's quite nice, for getting people out and about. It's almost like a volunteer project without having to actually commit to anything or necessarily interact with people if you don't want to, but so you can excuse me, time as you choose. And walking with purpose, which I think is quite nice.
Exactly, and we do. I mean, that's why we're really proud of it, because whenever we're doing our coastal surveys, so they are quite methodical. We if you're in the local area that we're surveying, we'll put out a call and say, we're doing a survey, you're more welcome to come along. But it might be, 6 to 8 kilometers a day, and we'll be covering this. And that can be off-putting. It's something, you might not want to do a very structured survey and cover a certain amount of time. And so the app allows you to have the freedom to use it in your own time, or to use it, have your own gathering of people, and you can wander the coast, so it opens up a lot more to more people and more times. And
yeah, it's a nice family activity. You could go as a family, especially if you're on holiday or by the beach or something like that, and you could go find things and take photos and kids will enjoy it as well. But actually, no, you're right. You could set up your own little group. Be like, hey, right, so every Sunday morning we're going to go a walk along a different bit of the coastline. And
I'll be starting something, yeah.
Or you could.
We just really like that people will be using it, and there is over 12,000 records in it now, so there's a lot there to update.
I think that's lovely.
Like what they say about painting a bridge, you start at one end, and by the time you get to the other, you need to go back and start
Yeah, that's,
updating them all again. So it's sort of an endless cycle, but yeah.
but then that's good.
The more the merrier, the more the merrier.
I was going to say, I'm one of these people, well, I think from doing the archaeological records of things, we do tend to take a lot of photos. Is that something that's okay, and you'll just filter out the ones?
That's absolutely fine. Some of we sort of say 4 is sort of a 4 is good, so that there's not just one picture of part of the site. You know, it's good to make sure that we've got a good understanding. But some of the records do have a lot more than 4. What I would say with the app is, if you're out in the field taking pictures, it limits how many you can take. I think it's up to 40 megabytes off the top of my head. It's so that you don't basically take like 50 and then it won't upload. It's sort of like a thing like that. So I think you could probably take about 10-ish, maybe, when you're out in the field to upload them. But you can, yeah, you could add more photographs. Some of the sites do have lots because there's lots to photograph and to show. So and depends as well. A lot of sites are just rapid updates. So you maybe will just have a 2, 3, 4. But if you're doing a more detailed survey of a specific site, quite possible you'd want a lot more than that.
No, that's perfect. Does anyone have any other questions? Don't think I've got any more coming through in the chat. Oh, Jan, have you got? Yeah, Jan, go for it. Hey.
Yeah, excellent. No, just a quick question. Well, kind of 2 questions actually. If you find a significant site, you know, maybe of carvings or whatever, but it's in a situation where it could be damaged, say with a herd of cows, for instance, how would you? Is there a mechanism for, you know, getting in touch with a landowner and saying maybe you need to kind of cordon off this area, or?
Well, that's a good question. I've never really thought about it being imminent damage before. I mean, potentially. I guess. I mean, obviously, it'd be worth, if it's coastal, recording it anyway with us and commenting and saying that this is and you know, needs to be looked at because it's in a lot of danger basically, and that'd be useful. But if I guess, yeah, if it was something that you were very concerned about, I'm not sure what the order of doing things would be. As you, Claire, do you have an idea? Maybe just yeah, you could inform the landowner, I guess, if you were worried about it, or, you know, check if it's already known. It might be a new site.
If it's not already known, if it was recorded on, say, Canmore, would it be protected, or?
Ooh. I'm not sure. I mean, if it's scheduled, it would be, but I don't know if it wasn't scheduled. I'm not sure what protections.
No, I think if it's not scheduled, I think the person to probably speak to would be Andrew Nicholson from Galloway as council archaeology. I would suggest is probably the first point of call, Sarah, unless I don't know. Yeah, does that sound?
Yeah, I reckon. Yeah, I reckon the local, whoever your local archaeologist would be.
That's just in
just in the sense that it would be quicker maybe, and they would know the area better. They could go and see, you know, quicker than we could by the time we moderate it and figure out, because we wouldn't know the area as well, I guess. But it's a good question. Yeah, I mean, sometimes these sites, there's priority and then there's priority. You know, sometimes they really are in need of monitoring, and I haven't managed to get up there yet, but I know that whenever Joe and Tom, you know, they find sites in Shetland, they're just crumbling out of the coast, and you know, if we don't monitor it and record it at least, then you know it's lost. So it's important to note these things.
Oh, thank you very much, Sarah. That's really helpful.
All right.
Might be also worth firing an email through to Sarah and Scape, as well as letting your archaeologists know as well. Just to make you aware. Yeah, I think, is there any more questions? How's everybody? Yeah, I think that's been really good. I think looking at the app, it is really easy to use. But you've got it really basic. You know, you can go into the map, add a new site. Yeah, no, I think it's really simple, which I like.
Well, perfect. But we're more than happy if you come across any issues with it. Like I say, with with the sort of Apple updates and things, you know, sometimes something can happen with it. So we always like to keep on top of it. So if you have any issues with it, just drop us a line and we'll see what we can do with it, or can talk through it, no problem. I was going to say you could even do one now, but I don't even know if it's necessary. But if you want a test run off it, you can see, once you've saved them, you can delete them anyway. So they don't, as long as you don't press submit, they don't come to me. And even if you do press submit and it says, you know, test my sofa or something, I'll know not to publish it online. So feel free to have a go, and literally have your desk, you know, okay, what size is my desk? What material is my desk? Put a nice description, a photograph, practice putting a location, and then you can just save it, or we don't even have to save it, you can just exit out. But if you want to save it and go into your records, and then you can just delete it again. But yeah, just go through the motions.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to thank you very, very much, Sarah. That has been absolutely fascinating, and you've made it so accessible to us all, especially us technically challenged people. So yeah, I can't wait to get outside into the landscape. And Claire, thank you so much for bringing together this talk. It's going to be so interesting, and looking forward to St Mary's Isle Walk on Friday. That will be great. And Nick, thank you for coming along as well and talking about Solway Firth partnership. And I'm sure that we'll all be out recording sites, so that will be great. So I think we're going to say goodnight. And thank you to everyone for joining us. And I hope you have great fun with the Scape app.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks so much.
Thank you.